Good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a wonderful trading day. Let's take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the remainder of the day. So, taking a look, it looks like we are going to close as a bearish doji. That's what I'm seeing potentially happen. I would like us to get above the open at 65,008. We are very close to it, but from right now, we're closing about an hour and 17 minutes. It does look like we're going to have a bearish doji close. So, that being said, honestly, guys, I have to remain bullish until proven otherwise. And what I mean by that is kind of something I've been reiterating, every single day, right? The meso timeframes are really for me dictating my bias right now. And it's really, yes, you could short this, right? You could have shorted from up here and you'd still be in profit. Um, But from a timing perspective, and especially because of the meso timeframes, like your 6 hour and your 4 hour, it is very, very risky to stay in shorts right now, especially the way that we're consolidating. You go into the 6 hour, I mean, you're about to get a golden cross from both the 21 and the 50, right? As long as we can keep the 200 MA at 63,940. Now, could we come down here and test the top of this order block right here? Of course we can, right? That's around 64, 150-ish. We could definitely test the top of that, touch the 21, that's fine. I'm going to still be bullish no matter what until we lose the 200 MA, right? Um, look at your 4 hour. You could just consolidate up here, let the 21 come into price action, and then just have, a huge, gigantic, expansive move. Um, so, as far as what I'm expecting for the remainder of the week, especially the way that this is acting, yes, I think that we could get into the 64 range. We could even get into the 63 area. Um, I am under the impression that we're not going to drop below weekly open. That's at 63,752. At least, Sunday weekly open. There's also Monday midnight open, which is basically that 62,798 area, but I think we're going to stay above here for, I think it's going to be a bullish close for the week. Just be, if you are shorting this, just be wary. I'm not looking to see this being taken down extremely far, okay? At the very most, I would say you could touch maybe 63 to 72 right here, but I am now of the mindset that we're going to stay above weekly open, okay? Now, that being said, we could have also already put the high in for the week as well. This, 65,571 could be our high for the week. We don't know at this point, but the way it's been consolidating all day long, um, I'm just not of a bearish mindset just yet. Okay. So, that being said, until the 4 hour and the 6 hour lose their 200 MAs, I'm bullish. And I have to put precedence on those time frames over the smaller time frames like your 15, your 10, your 5, right? Um, so until we start to lose some of these bigger time frame 200 MAs, you got to remain bullish. That's the way that this works. No matter what the pattern looks like, no matter what price looks like it's going to do, no matter how bearish the flag looks, if it looks like a head and shoulders, I don't care. Um, that's the rule of thumb for me and my trading style. So, um, yeah, I mean, I definitely could see, like I said, us get to the low 64 range. Sure, that's fine. But I just don't think that we'll lose that weekly open this week. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and drop down into the 5 finally. It looks like you're about to curve up, trying to get back above that 200 MA. We're kind of been playing around with it. So nothing out of the ordinary. There's a lot of choppy, consolidated price action here. I definitely think that, there's a possibility that we do take out this double top right here. But yeah, it's looking very bullish, guys, I have to say. All right, let me go ahead and take a look at liquidity now. So taking a look at liquidity. All right, let me go to the 4 hour. All right, so we're right next to this red area, and we are bouncing off of this. I don't even know why or where I had this, but we have 64,685 as a line on this chart. And I've had it for a long time. I just don't remember what I was doing. I think it was this double top right here. So we basically flipped a resistance line to make it support. Looking to see a price bounce off of here, but essentially, I mean, you have the ability to just come up here and at least get to 66, 314, this is saying, before you start getting into trouble. Um, I'm personally targeting 67 area. I want to see this double top rated, but I'll take 66, 3, even. And it looks like we do have some orders to 66,000 here. We don't have a lot after that. We're starting to build up some down here to 63 still. We got rid of a lot of these orders, but there's an order below us and there's an order above us. So it's really going to depend on where price wants to go. The order above is 65, 150, 4.19 Bitcoin, and then 4.19K Bitcoin, so 4,100-ish Bitcoin. That's insane. And then below it's 373 Bitcoin, so a lot more, of a bigger order above, um, which will give price incentive to move up first. Okay. But it does look like, looking at the 4 hour, that you have a better chance of wiping out this area right here before taking out this area down here. The only thing is, you could take out the 62, 5 area potentially and then bounce from there. But again, that's, from a timing perspective, it doesn't make sense unless we have a midweek reversal. And as it stands right now, unless we have a rollover, we've just been consolidating all afternoon in a bullish fashion. Okay. Taking a look at the 1 hour. So the 1 hour, let's take a look and see what this shows here. Let me get rid of the aggregation. Sometimes the aggregation will get in my way, so I'll turn it off. I just want to see liquidity for how it is and not round to the nearest levels. This is telling me that we could potentially see a move down to 63.5-ish area around the, area I've been targeting. I've been talking about that for a couple of days now. But we could see a move down, taking out some of these order blocks here, fulfilling some of these order blocks before we move up. But there's so much liquidity to the upside, guys. I mean, 67, 68,000 is, we're so ready to get there. So we could, do one more stop out of the longs and then just rip, right? Taking a look at the 15-minute. Yeah, it kind of paints that same exact picture. So I am seeing, we could do one of two things. We could just rip right now and just start taking out some of these shorts, or we could come down here, take out some of these, late longs, or people that are holding onto their longs, and then rip in the opposite direction. So it's really going to depend. And another thing that's making this very difficult is that, from a timing perspective, you don't really have any more Fed events going on this week, I believe. So, you're going to be dealing with low volume, and with low volume comes usually quite a bit of volatility in one direction or the other. Your trend of indicator showing, kind of mixed signals. Your bigger time frames are showing more bullish, which is what I've been saying. But your 1 hour is showing a -1 now on Trendif. So, 1 hour is slightly bearish, but then your 4 hour and your daily, like your 4 hour is saying like full blown bull, right? And then your daily's at a 2, which is quite bullish. So it, like I said, on the bigger time frames, until we lose those 200 Ms, I mean, I have to stay bullish, and that's going to affect the smaller time frames, no matter what this makes. So your 5-minute, right? Your 5-minute does show more liquidity to the upside. Let me try to aggregate this, see if it changes anything. Turn on the 25. Yeah, so I mean, you could get a drop down to 63.8, which we've talked about, 63.4 to 63.9. You could get that drop down, but then come back up and just railroad all of this liquidity up here. So I am seeing that we could have some problems once we hit 66.3-ish area, 66.4. But we're gonna have to play a wait and see on that. It's all gonna depend on how we consolidate. Like, if we consolidate like we are right now, that could be definitely a potential for us to move up higher into 67, 68 territory, right? So look out for, the 66.3. Look out for that, still that range of 66.4-ish, or sorry, 63.4-ish to 63.900-ish area, which does align with our order book as well. This ends at about 63.4. So there's a potential we go down, but yeah, I mean overall, I have to say bullish, guys. That's, again, that's the way that I've learned TA. That's, how my mentor taught me. And, until we break some of those higher time frame 200 MAs, I personally am not going to short. That's just a rule of mine. So I hope you guys are having a safe trading time. I know that, it's very, how should I say, it's tempting, right, to want to short like these tops up here, but just be very careful because we could be flipping into a bullish environment, a very bullish environment. So that's all I'm going to say is just be cautious of how you're doing that. So let's finally take a look at the simple map here. So your simple map, let's take a look and zoom in. Definitely have some 100x directly to the upside, which would take us back into the 65-ish range. I don't know if we have enough to get up into 65.6, but we definitely have enough, at least to get to about 65.4-ish area. You are starting to build up a lot more 50x and 100x to the downside though, with some hills here. So, if we were to get a pull to the downside, I would like to see a bounce. Now at this point, because we've consolidated all day, I would like to see a bounce around the mid to low 64K range, so 64 to 64.5. Um, Ideally, if not, we obviously would then think about testing weekly open. I think that was around 63.8-ish, if I remember correctly. Where was that? 63.752, so close enough. 63.752, and then I would want to see a bounce there. If not, you'd have to look out for your 63.3, 63.4 area, which would be those bullish 786 levels. So anyways, guys, that is what I'm seeing in regards to the scalping time frames through trading different. And then for your swing time frames, your 4 hour and your daily, kind of the same thing. You have 25x, you have, some leading up, right? Still, all of your orders are practically under $1 million, right? Or all of the liquidity up to that point to about 65,280 is under a million. Um, but to the downside, you do have some more cumulative longs that equate to over a couple million. So it does give some incentive to move down at least, maybe up to this point. 64,170 would be maybe a key area here that would possibly get a bounce from. But yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of consolidation. We're waiting to see where price wants to go, how far it wants to drop if it's going to drop. One really good sign for the bulls is these orders all basically got removed, or they got eliminated, they got pulled. You do still have some down here, but not near as many as what this was, right? So it does still kind of beg the question of whether or not we're going to get that bounce sooner rather than later to take out this double top around 65.5 and get into the 66,000 range. So overall, like I said, guys, I am still bullish. I'm just waiting to see whether or not we're going to get the drop that I've been looking for, or at least into the low 64K range before we continue our move upward. All right, guys, that is what I have for you this evening. As usual, if you guys want to use Trading Different and its tools, you get 10% off of the entire package by using my code Sean. TradingDifferent.com/code/Sean to get 10% off of the Trading Different tools that will help you identify trend and see where all of the liquidity is located. All right, guys, that is what I have for you for this evening. I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will talk to you in the morning. Take care.